Hello everyone and welcome to Dr. Fluffy. Today in Cleaning the Letterbox we're going to take a look at the madness that happened with Charlottesville and the press conferences and the press representation of what happened. Now, I rarely talk about politics in my channel, but this is also stupidity, this is also distortion of facts, this is also distortion of reality. So let's take a look, shall we?
Makes me want to, I don't know if I should just like laugh, so I mean I have like too much eye makeup on to start crying right now.
Well, and this was Fox News. Cry about what? About your president doing a factual statement during his press conference and denouncing correctly the hatred coming from both radical sides?
It's disgusting.
We were sad, we were crying, and we couldn't quite define why. And part of it was because the election brought into question our optimism about the country.
Are you noticing a pattern? By the way, the results of the election and the violence that you saw this last weekend, in great part was because of people like you. It was because of the manipulation that the press has done for a long time in your country, trying to defend radical left elements and ideas against the people.
I'm sorry that this is where we are right now, and I hope the president learns a lesson from his press conference on yesterday. It's disturbing.
Gianno, these are very sensitive.
Wow, it's almost like Trump said that, yeah, the neo-Nazis were right to do that. It doesn't seem like he said that, did he? He blamed the neo-Nazis, he denounced their violence, he said they were wrong, it was disgusting, he did all the blame that he could put on them. Well, you know what he didn't do? Pretend that the other side wasn't to blame too, like you've been doing for more than a year, when Antifa and BLM have been killing people and beating up people left and right.
And they were, people were crying, people were texting us, friends were texting us. It wasn't just Democrats who were hearing this.
There are people of color right now who are crying. There are Jewish people right now who are afraid because this cuts deep. When the president won't unequivocally stand with you for more than 12 hours.
Oh, you dishonest piece of shit. What the fuck in the statement that he did was against Jewish people or black people. He blamed Antifa and BLM for their share of the hatred and violence. They are not the Jewish people, they are not colored people, they are two terrorist groups that have been creating violence for a long time now, and that you people refuse to acknowledge.
Thinking about my godmother, Dottie Zollner, who's Jewish. I think about what she's gone through in her life, sticking up for civil rights. The stories that she's told me about her family and the things that her family suffered in Europe. And the fact that she can't count on the President of the United States to stand with her when a Nazi ran over an American citizen, killed an American citizen with ISIS tactics in our country. And my godmother can't come on the television and see the President of the United States show any sympathy for her.
You dishonest piece of shit, really. First of all, what does a Jewish person that apparently suffered some kind of discrimination in Europe, probably during the World War II, I guess, has to do with what happened in Charlottesville? Because what happened in Charlottesville is your fault. It's your fault because you guys are the ones that left the Antifa and BLM unchallenged, and because of that you brew hatred and violence from the other side, because that's what everything that violence and hatred breeds is, more violence and hatred. And guess what? When you let Antifa and BLM be racist, hatred and violent against everybody else will start fighting back. And unfortunately, yeah, those people created radicals on the other side, and it was awful. But your president denounced the racism of the alt-right, or whatever you want to call them, 3 times now. The only thing he did is that he refused to play into your hands, into your game, where you deny the racism, the violence and the hatred coming from Antifa and BLM. That has been going on for a long time now. It didn't abandon your Jewish grandmother or mother or whatever it is. You are guys are the ones who abandon every other person in your country that has been victims of Antifa and BLM. And it's because of you that people like that guys, like Steve Spencer and all of those guys, are rising. Because you are allowing them to. Because you are protecting the hateful rhetoric from all of those other groups, then they also feel like they can push their hateful rhetoric. But let's take a look at Trump's speech and understand why everybody's crying. Oh my god, let's see the awfulness.
Tonight, a defining moment in Donald Trump's presidency.
You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
The president, unfiltered and defiant, responding to criticism of his comments condemning the Charlottesville attack.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
Now this, of course, is highly edited, as anything these fake news networks do. But again, he's right. It's an important question. Do the other side have any blame? Because no matter how much racist, stupid shit was coming out of these people's mouth, they were peacefully gathering with a permit, and then protesters that didn't have a permit came and started violence. And by the way, let me call out Philip DeFranco, because he accused Trump of fake news when he said they didn't have a permit. But no, you, Philip, was the one spreading fake news, because there were two protester groups that were allowed to be there, that had a permit, but it was not Antifa, there was not BLM. There were two very small groups that had nothing to do with the groups that started the violence. So they didn't have a permit.
Let me ask you this. What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do.
Both protesters and counter-protesters came ready for a fight, but Saturday's rally was sponsored in the first place by white nationalists who showed up in force. It's one of those attendees, police say, who plowed into a group of people, killing 32-year-old Heather Heyer.
Again, this is a bit manipulation of information. Why? Because people started coming ready for a fight, because Antifa constantly, during the last year, every time there was a protest, they came with weapons and started violence. In the beginning, in the first protests that there ever were, about free speech, about all of these things, there was no violence from the other side. On the other hand, everybody just get their ass kicked, people unconscious on the ground, the police didn't do anything. That's why now, from the other side, people are coming in ready for violence, because they already know what Antifa does. And because you're not and never condemn Antifa, and you never are honest about it, they are not stopped. So the other side decides that they need to protect themselves. And I don't care if they're racist, if they are not racist. That's the reality of the fact. Before Antifa started the violence, they were not violent. Now I hear the poor girl that got killed was not one of the violent protesters, and the guy that did it should be arrested and locked away for a long time, because what he did was murder, what he did was awful, what he did was appalling. But that doesn't change the fact violence exists in this moment in the United States because of you people, and because you let Antifa and BLM run rampage, thinking that they can beat up whoever has different ideas than they do. A couple of months ago they were running around saying, oh, punch an IZ is okay, when they would call anybody who would oppose them Nazis. Now you have real Nazis coming for you and punching back. This is the world that you people created.
Very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
He is right, and the problem here is that because you people don't listen to the people that are not white supremacists, that they are not racist, they are not neo-Nazis, because you continually lump them together with these people, they will in the end start joining these people, because you're putting a us versus them mentality, and that's pushing people further and further to the extremes. It's you people that are doing this. It's the press, it's the regressive left ideology and politics that are driving people into extreme sides.
Do you think that what you call the alt-left is the same as neo-Nazis?
Those people, all
Are you
of those
putting them on the
people,
same
excuse
level?
me,
That's my question.
I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch.
They were white nationalists.
Those people were also there because they wanted to protest the taking down of a statue, Robert E. Lee.
Should that statue have been taken down?
Excuse me. And you take a look at some of the groups and you see, and you know it if you were honest reporters, which in many cases you're not, but many of those people were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. So, this week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming down. I wonder, is it George Washington next week?
Again, this is an important point because we have a minority deciding everything for a majority. So people say they are offended by a statue and they take it down. And then where does it stop? Because if you give a finger to these people, they will ask for your arms and legs. At maximum, these things should be democratically voted for the public. But again, when you're intolerant of historical facts and historical monuments, how the hell do you want to ask for tolerance from other people? That's one of the most ridiculous things I ever saw. This is the kind of things that will breed hatred, they will breed division, that breeds chants like they will not replace us. Because that's what sounds to them, that you want to replace history, that you won't replace them. These authoritarian moves breeds racism.
And is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop? George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status?
See, these are the kind of things that any normal person would ask, but a politician wouldn't, because they know that they can't say that or else they'll get attacked. But Trump doesn't care. So Trump is going to call him as it is. And that, of course, pissed the media off very much.
The president's words today echo what he said Saturday when he blamed many sides for hatred, bigotry, and violence, not condemning then the white supremacists and neo-Nazis who participated in the weekend rally. He did denounce them explicitly Monday, but
see how they manipulate facts. So he blamed everybody that was violent and hateful and bigoted. So that includes the white supremacists and everyone. Then he specified, because he had to specify. Then again, he decided, let's not let these other groups go unpunished. Oh no, but you cannot have that because they cannot accept and they cannot admit that Antifa are as bad as the white supremacists. They cannot. They cannot. They even though they're actually much worse, because except for this weekend, what else have they done? Nothing. What has Antifa done in the past year? A lot. They again try to continue to push this idea that blaming also the Antifa and the BLM is wrong, what of course is not. We need to start making people understand that both of these sides are as bad as each other.
the extraordinary back and forth you just watched was never supposed to happen in the first place. NBC News has learned the president was not set to answer any questions, according to a senior White House official who tells us President Trump simply went rogue. His new chief of staff, John Kelly, stood off to the side as it happened, at times lowering his head and folding his hands.
Because he knew that he was walking into a trap, your trap. Unless you people start condemning terrorist groups and racist and bigoted groups like Antifa and BLM, you're only going to get more things like what happened in Charlottesville. Because unless you condemn both sides, unless you see the hatred from both sides as equals, you're only going to give more power to the other side. This was a heavy video. In the end of the day, stay fluffy.